They told you it was safe, even healthy. A simple stretch, a harmless pose, a morning movement you've done for decades without a second thought. But last night, a 74-year-old man in Nebraska touched his toes, and by breakfast, he couldn't move the right side of his body. As a brain doctor, I've spent 30 years watching strong, independent people walk into my clinic one week and struggle to remember their grandchild's name the next. Because while everyone warns seniors about sugar salt and smoking, nobody tells you that this one common exercise, yes, this, can quietly raise your stroke risk overnight. No pain, no warning, no second chance. And the most chilling part, you've likely done it already today. If you're over 60 and still believe in healing, subscribe now. Because what you're about to hear might just save your life. In a 2020 report published by the American Heart Association, nearly 1 in 4 strokes occurred during the early morning hours, often within 2 hours of waking. Doctors traced a surprising pattern, a sharp drop in cerebral blood flow in older adults during simple postural movements, like bending over, standing up fast, or doing stretches before breakfast. The culprit, aging baroreceptors, tiny pressure sensors in your arteries, become less responsive with age, failing to stabilize blood flow to the brain during these sudden changes. The safe movement you did at sunrise, it may have starved your brain of oxygen even if you felt nothing at all. And that's just the beginning, because we're about to count down the 9 everyday movements that may be silently setting you up for a stroke. Starting tonight. 9. Toe touches and forward bends. You've probably done this hundreds of times. You wake up stiff. You stand up. You reach for your toes maybe 5 or 6 times. It feels like you're doing something good for your body. But if you're over 60, that familiar stretch may be the exact thing starving your brain of oxygen. Here's why. When you bend forward, suddenly blood rushes from your brain down into your lower body. In your 30s or 40s, baroreceptors, your body's natural pressure regulators, correct that instantly. But past 60, that response is slower, much slower. And when the brain doesn't get enough blood, even for a few seconds, it creates the perfect conditions for clot formation, thickened blood, reduced circulation, micro-stress to vessel walls. All invisible, all dangerous. Let me tell you about Edward, a retired history teacher. He did toe touches every morning like clockwork. Felt a little dizzy one day. Hours later, he was paralyzed on his right side. CT scans showed a clot had formed not from trauma, but from that simple motion. How to stay safe. If you must bend down, do it slowly. Avoid doing it first thing in the morning while dehydrated. Sit on a chair when putting on socks or shoes. Protect your brain from pressure drops. And here's what most seniors miss, that tiny moment of lightheadedness. That's not just fatigue. That's your brain whispering, I'm struggling. If this speaks to your story, tell us in the comments below. Seniors around the world are listening. 8. Inverted yoga. Poses legs up the wall. Downward dog, forward folds. You hear the soft music. You feel the calming breath. You join the gentle senior yoga class at your community center because you were told it's safe, even healing. But let me ask you this. What happens when gravity suddenly sends blood rushing into your skull toward fragile arteries that are no longer elastic, but brittle? That's exactly what happens during inverted yoga poses, even the gentle ones. Downward dog. Legs up the wall. Child's pose with the head below the heart. For seniors, these positions can overwhelm your brain's autoregulation system, the mechanism that balances blood pressure in your head. And when that fails, you get sudden spikes in intracranial pressure leading to artery swelling, vessel spasms, even ruptures that trigger strokes or eye damage. Evelyn, a retired art teacher in Oregon, loved her yoga class. But after a legs up the wall pose, she felt a stabbing pain behind her eyes. That night, she lost her ability to speak clearly. A stroke caused not by trauma or illness, but by a surge of pressure from an inverted pose. her body couldn't handle anymore. How to stay safe. Avoid putting your head below your heart if you're over 60. If you love yoga, focus on seated poses, gentle twists, and standing balance with support. Never ignore pain, especially in the neck, eyes, or head during or after yoga. And remember, the poses weren't designed for aging vessels, but your life is still your practice. Choose the poses that protect it. 7. Heavy lifting, including groceries, grandkids, and boxes. It starts with a good intention. You're carrying your own groceries, lifting that box of canned food, picking up your grandchild with pride. I've still got it, you tell yourself. But your blood vessels, they're not applauding. They're bracing. Because when you lift, especially while holding your breath or tensing your core, your blood pressure can spike in seconds. Some studies show increases of up to 50 mm during common lifting movements. And for aging arteries, that sudden surge is like shaking a fragile glass bottle under pressure. It may not crack right away, but one day when the clot forms or a tiny plaque breaks loose, you'll feel it. Or worse, you won't, until the damage is done. Let me introduce you to George, an 82-year-old retired firefighter from Ohio. Strong, proud, independent. He insisted on unloading the car himself every time. But one afternoon, after lifting a heavy box, he felt dizzy, then confused. Within hours, he was hospitalized with a mild stroke. His blood pressure, 108/112. The cause, a burst of internal pressure from one innocent lift. How to stay safe. Use carts, rolling bags, or ask for help. If you must lift something, never hold your breath, exhale as you lift. And if you feel pressure in your neck or head afterward, that's not fatigue. It's a red flag. You're not losing strength by being cautious. You're protecting the independence that really matters. 6. Standing up too quickly. It's something you've done your entire life. You wake up, swing your legs over the bed, and stand. Maybe you feel a little off balance, maybe not. But after 60, that one moment, the act of simply standing up too fast, can send your brain into a silent crisis. Why? Because gravity is working against you. When you rise quickly, blood drops away from your brain and into your legs. A younger body immediately compensates, tightening vessels, increasing heart rate, restoring balance. But for seniors, that adjustment may not come in time. And that lag, sometimes just 2 to 3 seconds, is all it takes for your brain to feel the squeeze. Less oxygen, slower circulation, and in some cases, just enough turbulence to create a clot. Let me share Evelyn's story. One morning after her usual stretching routine, she stood up to get her coffee. No big effort, no warning, but within seconds she couldn't move her right arm. A stroke. Doctors traced it to that exact moment, standing up too quickly, dehydrated with low vascular tone from years of medication. The perfect storm. How to stay safe. When getting up, pause on the edge of the bed first. Flex your ankles and hands. Let your body wake up before you rise. Hold on to something, a rail, dresser, even the wall, just for a second or two. And please never ignore that feeling of dizziness or blacking out for a second. That is not just low blood sugar. That is your brain saying, "Help me." 5. Walking in hot weather without proper hydration. You've heard it your whole life. Walking is the best exercise. And it's true, steady, low-impact movement keeps joints flexible, moods stable, and hearts strong. But for seniors, a simple walk on a warm day without hydration can quietly turn into a neurological time bomb. Here's why. As you walk, your body sweats even if you barely feel it. But unlike younger adults, older bodies don't register thirst the same way. And if you're on blood pressure meds, diuretics, or have diabetes or heart conditions, you're already dehydrated before you step out the door. Your blood loses volume, it thickens, it flows slower. This is called hemoconcentration, and it's a proven risk factor for ischemic strokes. Harold, a 76-year-old former truck driver, took a 20-minute morning walk every day. One summer morning, he forgot his water bottle, didn't feel thirsty. But halfway through his usual route, his legs went weak. He collapsed near the corner store. The diagnosis: stroke caused by thickened blood and reduced circulation. How to stay safe. Always drink water before and after your walk, not just when you're thirsty. Avoid walking in heat over 80 degrees, 27 degrees, especially midday. If you're on water pills or blood pressure meds, talk to your doctor about hydration timing and electrolyte balance. Walking is a gift. But under the wrong conditions, it can quietly deplete the brain instead of restoring it. 4. Neck circles and jerky head rotations. It seems innocent enough. You're trying to stay loose, avoid stiffness, so you roll your neck gently in a circle. Maybe tilt your head from side to side, just like they used to teach in gym class. But here's the truth that most seniors are never told. These simple neck stretches can tear the arteries that feed your brain. As we age, the tissues inside our vertebral arteries, the delicate vessels that run through your neck into your brainstem, become thinner, less elastic, and more fragile. When you make full jerky or forceful rotations, you can pinch or tear those arteries. And when that happens, the body tries to heal. It sends platelets. It forms a clot. And sometimes, without pain, without dizziness, that clot travels straight to your cerebellum or brainstem. That's called a posterior circulation stroke. Harder to detect, often devastating. Dennis, a 72-year-old choir director in Michigan, did gentle neck rolls every morning. One day, while singing, his voice suddenly slurred. He felt off balance. A scan revealed a small tear in the vertebral artery, likely caused by neck rotation over time. It had formed a clot. His speech never fully returned. How to stay safe. Avoid full neck circles. Never stretch your neck to its furthest limit. Stick to gentle, controlled side-to-side turns, no more than 45 degrees always, while seated and supported. Your brainstem is like your body's switchboard. It controls balance, breathing, and even your heartbeat. Let's not put that system at risk over a stretch that never should have been recommended in the first place. 3. High-intensity interval training, outcheit, and fast-paced home workouts. It's the trend you see everywhere. Burn fat in 10 minutes. Boost your metabolism with fast bursts of movement. And for younger folks, it works. But for seniors, high-intensity interval training, or HIIT, might be overtraining in disguise. You see, HIIT pushes your cardiovascular system to extremes, rapid jumps in heart rate, surges of blood pressure, short recovery times. That's like taking an old, reliable garden hose and suddenly turning the faucet all the way up over and over again. The result: heart rhythm disturbances, elevated clotting risk, spikes in blood vessel inflammation, and in many cases, stroke. Donald, a 74-year-old retired steelworker in Pittsburgh, was gifted a senior-friendly HIIT DVD by his daughter. He did it religiously, 15 minutes a day. Jump touches, modified burpees, fast arm raises. Then one morning after his final rep, he collapsed. The clot had formed 2 days earlier. His vessels had narrowed from repeated pressure surges. The final burst pushed it loose straight into his brain. How to stay safe. Avoid fast-paced, high-impact routines unless cleared by your cardiologist. Focus on rhythmic, steady movement, walking, tai chi, swimming, or water aerobics. Always warm up for 5 to 10 minutes and never skip your cooldown. Remember, more intense doesn't mean more effective. At this stage of life, consistency is more powerful than intensity. Your brain doesn't want fireworks, it wants flow. 2. Stretching cold muscles. First thing in the morning. You rise with the sun. The house is still. You breathe in deeply and begin your morning stretches, arms overhead, calves against the wall, maybe a forward bend to wake things up. It feels peaceful. It feels responsible. But if your body hasn't moved yet, if your blood is still thick, your vessels still tight, you could be doing more harm than good. Here's why. When muscles are cold, circulation is sluggish. Your arteries and veins are not yet dilated, meaning there's limited blood flow and higher internal tension. Now imagine twisting or holding a long stretch in that state. You're not just stretching muscles, you're stretching your blood vessels, ones that may be lined with decades of plaque or weakened by years of medication. In some cases, this gentle act can lead to micro tears in vessel walls, pooling blood, and even clot formation when the body perceives injury. Let me tell you about Eileen, a 71-year-old retired piano teacher from Colorado. She followed a gentle senior stretching video every morning before her walk. No warm-up, no hydration, just straight into forward bends and quad stretches. Halfway through her walk, she staggered. A clot had dislodged, likely from vascular stress during her stretch. She survived, but her balance was never the same again. How to stay safe. Always warm up before you stretch, even just walking in place for 3 to 5 minutes. Drink water when you wake up to thin the blood and restore fluid volume. Stretch after activity when your body is warm and your circulation is moving freely. Morning routines can be beautiful. But stretching before you're ready, that's like stepping on the gas without starting the engine. 1. Balance exercises without support. It's the classic recommendation: improve your balance to prevent falls. And it's true, but how you do it can mean the difference between protection and devastation. Let's say you try standing on one foot while brushing your teeth, or walking heel to toe across the living room. Seems harmless, right? But if you're doing it without support, no wall, no chair, nothing to grab, you've opened a window of danger that many seniors never see coming. Because here's what happens in a split second. Your foot slips slightly, your center of gravity tilts, and suddenly your body reacts with a burst of stress, hormones, adrenaline, cortisol, a spike in blood pressure. In that moment, even if you catch yourself, your blood vessels constrict violently. And if you do fall, even a mild head bump or jolt to the spine can trigger internal inflammation, which leads to clotting. Sometimes not immediately, but over the next 12 to 24 hours. Walter, 79, was doing a balance drill he'd seen on TV, walking heel to toe with his hands out. He didn't fall hard, just a stumble. Bruised his hip. No big deal, right? But 16 hours later, he was slurring his words. The fall had triggered a clot. It lodged in a vessel feeding his speech center. His independence was gone in one night. How to stay safe. Always perform balance exercises next to a stable object, a wall counter, or heavy chair. Don't challenge balance on slick floors or without shoes. Most importantly, balance training should be about building confidence, not testing limits. The goal is not to prove you can do it alone. The goal is to stay upright, healthy, and here for the people who love you. So far, we've walked through movements that most people, even doctors, consider harmless, even helpful. But here's the twist no one sees coming. It's not the movement itself that's dangerous. It's the timing, the condition, and the assumptions. We've been taught to believe that more is better. That if we just keep moving, we'll keep aging gracefully. But that belief, that blanket prescription, is outdated. The truth, what worked at 40 might destroy you at 70. You've avoided things like intense exercise, sprinting, or sports, thinking those were the dangers. But no one warned you that touching your toes, getting out of bed too fast, or stretching before warming up could be the real culprits. Let me share a story that changed how I practiced medicine. Martha, 71. No medical history. A proud grandmother of 5 who started every day with gentle yoga and a few calf stretches before walking to meet her neighbor. She'd done it for years. One morning she added a new move, a neck roll she saw on TV. She said she felt off afterward, but shrugged it off. 3 hours later, her grandson found her on the kitchen floor, conscious but unable to speak. Her CT scan showed a posterior circulation stroke. The likely cause, a micro tear in her neck artery, triggered by that new stretch in a cold, unhydrated body. This wasn't an accident. This was a system failure, a failure to warn seniors how much their bodies had changed. Here's what we now know. Blood vessels stiffen with age, the baroreceptors in your arteries. Those little sensors that regulate blood pressure become sluggish. The autoregulation system in your brain, the mechanism that balances blood flow during movement, is no longer sharp. And medications, dehydration, and pre-existing inflammation all make your brain even more vulnerable. You may feel fine. You may look fine. But inside, you could be one small mistake away from a clot, a spasm, or a vessel rupture that steals everything you've built: your voice, your balance, your memory. So here's the twist. It's not about doing less. It's about doing different. Stretching, yes, but after warming up, not before. Yoga, yes, but without inversions or neck pressure. Walking, absolutely, but hydrated, supported, and in the right weather. Lifting, sure, but with breath support and humility. The movements you once trusted must now be adapted to protect what matters most: your independence, your dignity, your story. If this speaks to your story, share it in the comments below. Seniors around the world are listening, and they need to know it's not too late to move smarter. It's not too late to rewrite the rules. Here's the truth we often forget. The body still wants to heal. Even now. Even at 60, 70, 80. Your heart still beats with purpose. Your brain still listens to every signal. And your muscles, even the tired ones, are waiting for a wiser way forward. You are not fragile. You are not broken. You are adapting to a new season of strength. A season where wisdom replaces willpower. Where smarter movement replaces sweat-soaked exhaustion. Where your goal isn't to prove you're young again, but to protect the life you still have to live. So here's your charge. Hydrate before you move. Warm up before you stretch. Support yourself before you balance. Breathe deeply before you lift. And never ever ignore that whisper of dizziness, pressure, or fatigue. That's your brain saying, slow down. I'm with you. If you believe healing has no age limit, subscribe. If you believe your body deserves a second chance, share this with someone you love. If you believe knowledge can save a life, leave a comment. You might change someone's tomorrow. We walk together in this. Smarter, slower, stronger. Let's keep moving, not toward youth, but toward wisdom. Because your next chapter deserves a steady hand and a safer step.